Hey guys, and welcome to the Blueprint. Going to do something a little bit different this week. Instead of a blog post, I'm going to talk a little bit about programming, and I'm going to do that with Pat Barber. For those of you who don't know, Pat Barber and the guys from Warmup and Workout are the ones who run our programming here at CrossFit By Design. So I figured who better to talk to about programming than the people we trust to run our programming at the box here. This is actually my first interview of anybody ever, but lucky for me, Pat made it super easy. So it actually turns out quite well. The only bad news is, being that it is my first recording, I didn't capture all of the audio. So while in some places it may seem like I'm inserting questions in after the interview, that's because that's exactly what I have done. And also it might seem like Pat doesn't answer the first couple of questions in their entirety. That's not true. He goes into great detail and answers them. I just accidentally cut off some of the audio. If you hang in there for the first few minutes, it all levels out and turns into a great interview anyway. All right, Pat, welcome to the show. We're going to dive straight into it with something that's been a great addition to our programming, and that's the icebreaker questions, man. So this is taken straight from your list of icebreaker questions. Should be pretty easy for you to answer. As a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, that's actually a good one.
Well, I usually answer it first. I don't know if that's how you do it.
I wanted to be a professional athlete. So as a kid, when I grew up, I wanted to be a professional athlete. It was my life goal to get paid for playing a sport.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, mission accomplished.
Yeah, right? It was actually interesting. When I met my wife, after I met her, I completed all my life goals within like 2 years or something like that. I had completed every life goal that I'd ever set. Now I'm like sitting around trying to figure out new life goals. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it might be just time to retire, bro.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I just die now.
Yeah, dude. No one likes to show off. You know.
No, my bad.
Yeah, well, the reason I usually answer it first is so people don't feel so ambushed, but you did just fine, man. I wanted to be like a carpenter when I was a little kid. It quickly changed to wanting to join the army, and I've done that eventually, but I wouldn't say that I've quite achieved everything I've set out to just yet. Alright, Pat, so I've got a bunch of questions here. I'm just going to fire at you straight away. First one, what's your experience with CrossFit, specifically on the programming side of things, and what led to Warm Up and Work Out?
So for me, the experience programming within CrossFit has been, all over the place. You start with just, the goal of the program is to make people more fit, right? The goal of the CrossFit program. And CrossFit, by definition, is constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity. And you basically use that program to make people more fit. And fitness, as defined by CrossFit again, is work capacity across broad time and modal domains. And the idea and the stuff that you hear at the lectures and the level 1 and all these other areas is we're basically using this methodology, which is this tool of CrossFit, constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity, to increase our work capacity across broad time and modal domains. It's a lot of buzzwords, but it's basically use the program that we know to be CrossFit to make it so people can output power, so work capacity, or across any time frame, so 10 seconds all the way up till 30 minutes to an hour, they can output power in whatever time frame they want, and in modal domains, so whatever domain that they want. So the idea is that your programming should elicit a stimulus that gains people's capacity in all areas of life. Now, that is awesome, and I think the most effective program on the planet is CrossFit for doing that. Like, there's nothing else out there that really kind of holds a candle to it. But the number of ways that can be implemented is vast. And there's a bunch of people trying different things in order to achieve this level of fitness.
So as far as trying different things goes and programming with different approaches, how would you explain the difference between CrossFit as a sport and CrossFit as just a healthy training program? Do you think as a sort of healthy long-term training program, there's maybe more balance in that than there is a competitive program, or do you think there's another factor? Or a better question might be, what do you think the biggest difference is between programming for an affiliate versus programming for a competitor?
Right. I would say balance plays a huge role, but I mean, even as a competitor, I think balance is super, super important. I would say the main difference between programming for an affiliate or programming for health and life and programming for a competitor is volume.
Yeah. Okay.
If you're looking to achieve growth over years and years and years and years in the safest possible way, without burning out physically or emotionally and mentally, I think it's very important that the volume doesn't stay super high and the days are more singular focused and there's a lot of learning that happens. And that's more of like the programming for an affiliate, true volume.
Yeah, and well, so just in line with that, would you say that's probably one of the bigger mistakes you see in like GPP programming, that people are just sort of going after the longer workouts more than they are getting a lot of variation?
Yes and no. I wouldn't say they necessarily do longer workouts. I would say they do too many workouts in a session. So you've got like these gyms that have, like if you look at our stuff at warm up and workout, we've got like the skill work, and we've got the general warm up, and we've got the the brief, and then you've got your workout, and then you've got your cool down. So there's different parts to the day, but they're not all workout components. And I think what happens these days is people have like, here's workout 1, then workout 2, then workout 3, part A, D, C, E, F of whatever session. And it's like, they're all workouts in and of themselves. There's no time left to learn. There's no time left to rest. And it's like, it's cool in the moment for a lot of people who are newer, but that just breaks people down. It's just too much, especially if you're doing it every single day. Now, so that's the biggest mistake I see is not necessarily really, really long workouts, because those happen too, but I see it more often as too many workouts in a session, and not enough time left to learn and grow and build community and really rest.
Yeah. Well, in line with that too, I was watching one of your episodes, the CrossFitters in Cars.
Yeah.
And you guys had a question which I think it's probably come up a million times, but it was answered by somebody else. So I'm pretty sure you agreed with it on the show. But the question was, what do you think about programming a strength session before every Metcon? So I think you kind of just answered it there. But it was, I think the answer on the show was, I think you should take your strength training a little bit more seriously, or something in line with that. So do you think people who are programming, okay, 5x5, and then we're going to go into, whatever, Metcon, they, again, still just trying to do too much if they are after that GPP long-term healthy programming?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of depth to that question, because I think a lot of people do it and there's a lot of emotion tied behind.
So that's probably true. Yeah.
I think people's understanding of it, because a lot of gyms do it, and I would say it's the single most common question we get as to like, why don't you do this? And I think on the show it was interesting because it was answered by someone who comes from a strength background. So it came from Abby Grove, who worked with Westside Barbell and who is, in and of herself, unbelievably strong. Like the girl's 5'0" and 100 pounds or 120 pounds, something like that, and back squatted 450, not and kilos. I know you Aussie girl guys, pounds.
Yeah.
But she
still
was
impressive nonetheless.
Yeah, super impressive. And so she answered it from a strength perspective. And the idea was that, like, when you do a true strength day, you need to give it the respect that it deserves. And that's huge. That's a huge thing, is like, if you want true strength gains, you need to take those days where you're doing strength and you need to hit them very seriously. And you spend a lot of time under tension. And if you don't want to get injured, you need to warm up well, and you need to spend a lot of time, under a heavy amount of weight. And like, that's how you get true gains in strength. Now, I think the thought process behind doing a strength and a Metcon every day was, we're exposing people to more strength movements. So they're inevitably going to pick up these strength movements better. And They're going to be exposed to them more often over the course of a week, and they're going to get stronger. And I would say, yeah, people do probably get stronger while doing that. But at the same time, I think you could have very similar, if not better, gains in strength by doing those strength days as individual days and allowing the strength movements of Metcons to allow them to, build more time under the bar, build more capacity, without running the potential of overdoing it on those strength movements, of overworking the hinge movements that you do if you're doing only lifting every single day, or, pulling off the ground every single day, or getting under load every single day quite that same way. Like, the nervous system in general needs time to reset. And if you're doing it every single day, you run the risk a lot more of blunting someone's overall growth. And I think that people look more in the short-term gains. It's like, how much can I give someone in a class? And they're thinking very nearsighted. It's like, how much can I get somebody in, a 3-month worth of training versus how can I keep these members for 8 to 10 years? And I think a GPP done well does the second of those two things. They see growth, but they see growth in all areas of fitness, and they stay for much longer because burnout is a much harder thing to come by in those sessions. In addition to that, I really do believe that not everyone wants to lift every day. And I think you limit your demographic of people you can cater to. If you're an affiliate owner and a business owner, it doesn't make sense to make it so you lift every single day, because you're not catering to, I think, a larger demographic of people who just want to come in and get fit. Generally what happens is people come into a CrossFit facility not wanting to lift weights and then fall in love with lifting weights. It's not really so often the other way around, where people come in wanting to lift weights every day and then fall in love with CrossFit, like fall in love with getting fit. It doesn't generally happen in reverse. So I think when you pigeonhole yourself into, hey, we're lifting every day, you're also shunning a certain demographic of clientele who, doesn't really want to lift every day. And you're basically biasing your program in a way that you don't need to see results. You're running a higher risk of burnout. And it leaves less time for actual interaction and coaching and psychological growth that comes with these low intensity skill sessions. Now, that all being said, I do think it can be done well. I've seen people do it well, but it has to be significantly more thoughtful in the programming than just slapping a strength in front of a Metcon every day. You have to look at the overall months and the macro pieces at play and make sure that you're not leading yourself to burnout. And when you're programming one focus per day, you can kind of look over the month and be like, okay, here's our one focus. We'll use everything else to supplement this. But if you have 2 focuses every day, that doubles your amount of complexity of what each session needs to be. And I think there's very few programmers out there who do it well. For normal people, at least. For competitors, you got to do it every day. But that's the sacrifice that you're making as a competitor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would I have a lot to say on this, obviously, but
yeah.
I would also say that with competitors too, their volume, so every single session they're doing. With an affiliate, you don't know when your members are coming in. So it doesn't make sense to have any linear-based strength programs built in, because if you miss a day of back squats in a 5-3-1, you've missed a giant chunk of volume that was made for them to hit at a certain percentage and then gradually increase. So linear-based strength programs don't make sense in affiliate programming because you don't know when people are coming in.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I think it's good because when she answered the question, was it Abby Grove, did you say?
Yeah.
She wasn't fucking around. She believes what you believe, but she just answered it within 3 seconds, and she's like, let's move on. Like, it seems like everyone's kind of had enough of this. But yeah, I thought I'd just one last time.
Yeah, no worries. I actually really enjoy answering, because I think there's a lot of people who they see it as more is better, and they don't understand that, like, we're not hating on people who do it. We're just trying to get people to understand why you wouldn't do it or why you would do it. Because, like, if you're going to do it, you should really know what you're getting yourself into and why you're doing it. If you're just throwing it at all your members, you're doing them a disservice if you don't have very, very good, a really good, well done version of it, which is rare to find.
Yeah. So would you say it's kind of in line with that of strength numbers or even just Metcon numbers? How would you coach somebody who's only concerned with their score? Who's somebody who thinks that, I'm sure it's more about education than anything else, but somebody who thinks that they need to just be in every single day and be under the bar or be, doing whatever they need to do to get a higher score. Like that's all they're concerned with. And it's, you're struggling to educate them that, more isn't necessarily always better.
Yeah.
What would you say to that person?
I would look at it's every situation that you're in with like individual situations like this are going to be different based off who the person is, right?
Yeah.
So depending on where they're coming from, like if they're a young kid and they're like, hey, I want to go to the games, or if they're, just getting into this fitness thing and they found CrossFit and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to compete at a local competition. Like I would more than anything educate them on how results are achieved. And let them know that the two greatest things you can do are make sure that your intensity in your individual workouts is very high, and not, oh, you're sweating a lot, but like your actual power output, your force times distance divided by time. Like how intense are you during a workout? And let them know that that's where they're going to see results. And that comes from strength days. And that also comes from Metcons. Like intensity in a strength day is truly how much load and speed you can have on that bar. And if you're beat to shit from all the other stuff you're doing, and that load and speed decrease, that strength day doesn't work for you the same way it would if you had single focused on that and gone heavier, faster, and harder. So I would educate them on intensity and its adaptation, or its role in our programs as far as adaptation goes, which is intensity is the single greatest way we achieve growth. And then I would also look to educate them on recovery and food, making sure they're doing those things well. Because if someone comes to you and they're just wondering why they're not having the success that they are, and you look at their diet and it's shit, it's like, well, obviously, you're fueling your system with bad food. So let's hone in on this. And then I would just, for some people, no matter what you do, they're going to just want to do more. And as long as they're happy and you've said what you have to say about like, hey, here's where you could lead yourself to overtraining, be aware of these signs of decreased performance across the board, or, for a month on end. So these signs of overtraining, or, or being unhappy or being too wrapped up around what a score is, and just make them aware of it. But if they're happy and they just want to get after it and they want to do that kind of stuff, as long as you've said your piece on what you believe in to be the truth behind what they're doing, then I think you can be okay with supporting them in what they want to do. Just try to find the most effective ways for them to do it, the most well thought out, programs that will help that, or the best training partners that will help that. And do your very best to help them, rather than being like, hey, you're stupid, stop
it. Yeah, I wouldn't imagine that go down very well.
No, not super well.
Yeah. Well, you kind of touched on something I wanted to talk about there, which was what do you think the best way to screen for overtraining would be?
I heard it a long time ago from Tony Budding when he used to work for CrossFit headquarters, and he said his statement was like, overtraining is retrograde performance, like continued retrograde performance. He had a way of saying interesting words, and it might even have been a Glassman quote, but I don't quote me on the Glassman quote. But it's basically if you're like, in order for you to truly see if you are overtraining, you do need to take record of your workout numbers. So first and foremost, have a logbook. Now, if you look at your logbook and over the course of like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, shit's going backwards, like downhill, not like staying the same, but like going downhill backwards, then that is overtraining. Like you've done something to where you're doing too much and you're overtraining. there's a bunch of different camps on overtraining. If you talk to these people who are all central nervous system based, and they're like, resting heart rate versus what is it, blood oxygen saturation level, and the Fitbit's trying to tell you that you're overtraining, and da 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 da. They get all nerdy with it, and I think they have a little too much vested in saying that people are overtraining all the time. So that's the kind of statement that you get, is like everyone's overtraining. And then you get the other end of the spectrum, which is like elite level, I don't know, competitors in CrossFit or competitors I've seen Olympic lifting competitors blast stuff out there being like, unless you're training for the Olympics, there's no way a normal person's going to be overtraining. And I think that, I think that it's each dependent upon the individual, their background, their physiology. It's going to be totally different from person to person. And I think my favorite thing to look at for overtraining would be retrograde performance.
Yeah, I've always liked if you walk into the gym too many days in a row and you're like, fuck, I just don't want to be here, and the first thing you do is reach for a foam roller, that might be a small indication.
Yeah, pay attention to it a little closer, right? Yeah. Write some numbers down.
Yeah. So I kind of want to move into some questions that geek out a little bit as far as the programming side of things go. So maybe some coaches might get a little bit out of this, not so many athletes.
Sure.
But the first question I got might be more geared towards warm-ups and things like that. But what do you think the best way to program for the transverse plane movements would be? And how do you sort of fit that into GPP programming?
Well, the common thing that Greg Glassman says about this is that, like, through the bracing that we do and the normal plane movements that we do rather than the twisting, we end up building strength in transverse movements.
Yeah. Okay.
So but the same can't necessarily be said the reverse. So the reason you don't see a lot of med ball twists and stuff like that in our actual programming is because it's harder to output power while you're twisting your spine. So your power output's going to be lowered, and you run a higher risk of injury when your spine's twisting side to side. So the idea is that we work a ton of bracing that carries over into your ability to then twist, right? So I think generally the way we do it is we do have those, but we still love to have them. They're just all in warm-ups and and skill work. And I think the best way to attack that is, like, a couple times a week you're doing some sort of twisting, you're doing some sort of once or twice a week you're doing some sort of twisting or med ball tosses or partner carries or odd object lifts, things that cause you to just be a little bit out of position and work those. There's not, for me, because I see such a good carryover from the bracing, there's not really like a set patterning for it. But the idea is that you just build it into more of the skill specific stuff, some of the weird gymnastic stuff, or you build it into just general basic warm-ups. And that like the raising the heart rate kind of pieces where you're doing, like I said, med ball twisting, or it's kind of limited in the movements you can train there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, would you say it doesn't really qualify for moving large loads, long distances quickly kind of thing? So
no, but which is why we don't do it in workouts, but we can do it in warm-ups, because it's more about those skill pieces. And, like, you'll see the Performance KRX guys, they do a lot of unilateral and the occasional twisting thing here and there, but they're done a little bit slower just because you have to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so another one. What do you think the best hamstring, prehab or warm-up exercise to do before sprinting? Or a better question might be, like, what would a warm-up for you guys look like if the session is going to be sprinting?
If you've ever done Chris Hinshaw's stuff, have you ever seen?
Yeah.
So
Chris Hinshaw, you guys turned me onto him for one of our endurance athletes. Actually, he runs an awesome program.
Yes. So he runs a straight up awesome program, and it's Chris Hinshaw's running warm-up. Like, it's the best I've seen. It's the most comprehensive, and by the time you're done with it, your heart rate's good, your calves are good, your Achilles is good, your hamstring's all warm. I think that stuff's huge. I think for me with the hamstring stuff, it's more about just getting the blood flowing through there and taking it through a longer range of motion rather than just running. and just kind of targeting from the top of the hip all the way down and getting everything a little bit looser than it is and blood flowing through it. I think the thing we see more often than not is doing not enough of it and then going as hard as you possibly can. And I think, and that's how we get those fun hamstring tears. But it's more like getting blood flow through it and building up in intensity as you're going. So if you look at Chris's stuff, they end with faster and faster sprints, but it's been after a whole bunch of other stuff that's getting the hips opened and warm and the hamstrings open and warm.
Yeah, I've seen that actually. It's pretty comprehensive.
I love it. I mean, if you just look at, there's a video of like I think Froning and Bailey and those guys doing it on a track, and it's CrossFit HQ posted. It's like the Chris Hinshaw running warm up, and check it out. It's legit.
Okay, cool. So, how often do you think purely anaerobic work should be done, like per week?
Well, I mean, nothing's truly purely anaerobic, right? We're using all pathways at all times, but are you talking about more like metcons, like short metcons, like 5-10 minutes? Or are you talking about? I would say
in line with sort of like, I'm sure you're aware of Julian Pinot and his kind of stuff. So he just talks about basically like how often you want to, I don't want to like outrun your own fitness kind of thing, like just absolutely bury yourself within a short time frame. So he uses a sled to do it.
Right.
And he'll just do it until you're done and then go a little further.
Oh, so you're looking like purely, like you are thinking purely anaerobic, like sub 30 seconds, like,
absolutely
all out efforts.
Yeah.
I don't really have a number for it. I think that each CrossFit workout has opportunities to do this, Like if you look at something like a Fran or something like that, there's always that last little push that you can finish in the end of going balls to the wall till you die, or even like a 20-minute workout like Cindy. Like you'll start nice and slow and paced, and then as 1 minute hits, you're riding, you're well gassed out anaerobically, and then you just find something in you to push for a good solid 30 seconds to a minute to try to get every rep that you can. I don't personally, because I don't think as an affiliate goes, you need to be that nerdy with it because you're not, once again, knowing exactly the days that people come in. I don't have a good answer for you of the number of days that an affiliate should do it. Because if you look at the nature of CrossFit programming, every single day has opportunities to go to that place for the most part, unless it's purely a strength day. And that would be a day that you would want to pull off that because you don't have the opportunity to hit a true anaerobic place. I do think that it comes down to coaching. I think paying attention to people and where they're at during a class and causing them to push harder and go to those places during workouts because your clients is going to be your best bet of having the most results from your program. You could have the best program in the world, but if nobody's ever hitting it how you want to hit it, so like say it was, hey, do 30-second sled sprints, like that could mean 10 different things. You could do a 30-second slow, heavy sled sprint. You could do a fast, heavy sled sprint. You could do a really, really light for distance sprint. You could do a really, really light, slow trudge for 30 seconds. It's like, depending on how the coach lays that out, it's going to be a different stimulus. So I think and depending on who the person is and what they need, it's going to be a different stimulus. Like if they've gone super anaerobic for like the last couple of days and you see that go back to overtraining, their central nervous system's fried and they're just tired and they're feeling shitty, then for that day that it might be the sled sprint that you're programming for them, you'd pull it back and you'd be like, hey, we're going to keep it heavy and we're just going to do a slow push. If you get it 10 feet, get it 10 feet, like I don't want you to be really outputting super, super hard, something like that. So I actually don't have a good answer for you of the number of times that you should really be going truly anaerobic and staying in those places.
Well, so how would you coach somebody into like that place? Because I mean, it obviously takes a degree of mental toughness to get there. So how do you say to somebody, I want you to fucking kill yourself on this without them looking at you funny kind of thing? Because it is like, to get to that level, you really need to push. What would you say to somebody to coach them into that? Because you have people come in and you're like, all right, I want you to go you know, like you said, fucking balls to the wall, man. Like, give this everything you got, and then they kind of, like, you know, as a coach, like, I fucking know this person's got more than that.
Right.
They just can't. You can't seem to access it, or they. It's almost like they don't know how to. They don't know how bad it should feel. I don't know if that's the right way to word it, but
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. But I think it comes down to building trust and a better understanding of who these people are. So if the client truly trusts you, then what you say to them, they'll do. If they don't fully trust you, then they won't. So first and foremost, you have to build that trust. And then depending on who the client is, you're going to have to say different things to get them to go to that place. So if it's a client who, you know, really trusts you and they you know that they respond to aggression, then what you do is you come up and be like, fucking move, go, like, and you get in their face and you make them move.
Yeah.
But if it's a client who doesn't respond to aggression and they respond to goal setting, then you walk in and you go, on this next one, I need you to do a set of 12. You can't do a set of 10, okay? Not a set of 10. Push 2 more. And you're right there with them. And then they have that objective number to go towards. They're like, okay, I'm going to go for this set of 12. And you force them into 2 more reps they might not normally get. But I think either way, the foundation is building the trust with the client and then figuring out exactly what it takes to get them there. Now, I'm going to say this now. Not everyone's going to go there. And I'm going to let you know that it's okay, because in the end, our program is about making people have a better life in one way or another. And ideally, it's through fitness. But if their hour out, outside of their daily life that they spend in your gym is like that's their time to come and forget about stuff and just relax and do their thing, you need to provide everything you can for them to be getting better. And if that means talking to them and just encouraging them and having them push, that's like to a certain place, but that you know they're never going to go any further, then you should be okay with that as a coach. If that person then comes to you and says, hey, I'm not seeing results, then you go, well, let me tell you why. Because whenever you go, you leave something in the tank. But I'd say find out what motivates people, find out why they're in there, and then connect with them on that level and get them to go to the next level. I think a really easy way with it, an easy way to do it, which is what you said earlier, is sled pushes. Because sled pushes, I mean, it seems like a really, like that's what Pinot does, right?
Yeah, there's just nowhere to fucking hide on it, I think. I think that's why he does it,
It is, and it's like, I think short sled pushes, they really kick you in the balls. I mean, same thing with air assault sprints, Airdyne sprints for, 10-second sprints, or like they just kick you right in the balls, and they're good movements for tricking people into going harder than they think. But I think also just the connecting and figuring out what they need to hear in order to go to that place, or if they even want to go to that place, whatever they're looking for the program.
Yeah, well, I mean, in line with that, as far as, having an idea for what people need and what's going to make them grow, what would you say to somebody who, if you identified them and you think that they could really benefit from doing something, especially now that the Open's got all kinds of scale divisions, that trying to encourage them to do the Open, but they're sort of in the mindset of they're not good enough to do the Open. So, real similar to people who think that they need to get fit before they do CrossFit.
Yeah.
Like what would you say to somebody, what's a way of saying, fuck man, just give it a go? Like,
yeah. I think it all comes down to why they're saying no. So like if you walk up and you're like, why don't you do the Open? And they're like, well, I just don't think I'm fit enough. And then if you find out that really is the reason, they don't think that they're fit enough, you can bring tangible evidence up to them, like bring open the people who did the burpee thruster workout and it took them an hour and 10 minutes. Bring up things and show them videos of people who are clearly less fit than them doing the Open. And then also you could always do the old, I signed you up, you owe me $10. And if you don't pay me, then I'm out $10. Because if you think that they genuinely benefit from it and their only reason is, well, I just don't think I'm good enough, if you sign them up, they are either going to let you down and you're out
that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. Or they get in and all of a sudden they figure out that they love it.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right. So what would you say to somebody who's looking to shift over to CrossFit from like a traditional gym program kind of thing. Like they're sort of sick of the same old, and they're looking at CrossFit, but they're seeing all the fail videos on YouTube, and they're just not sure. And you know,
Yeah, it's hard, man. Once again, it comes down to who they are and why they're not currently doing it. So I'd talk to them and I'd be like, why would you not do it? You know, and I just combat any sort of questions they may have or concerns they may have, because the program is founded on data. It's founded on really solid data, and it's founded on a very strong set of definitions for, you know, what CrossFit is and why we do it, and what fitness is and how we get better at it, and why CrossFit's the best way to get there. And it's like, and I would do it with the most open mind possible. So you don't do it saying everything else sucks, here's what you should do. You do it you do it saying, you know, these things are all amazing, but this right here is going to give you whatever you're looking for from fitness. You know, like, what do you want? And then you explain to them why CrossFit is the best way to get them there. Because in all honesty, you can use that, hey, what do you want from your fitness program? And then describe why CrossFit fits that for almost any single response to that question. Like, because it has so many different, it's so multifaceted in itself as a program. You know, it makes you stronger, it makes you look better, it makes you become part of a bigger community, it gives you better friends. There's a competition side of it. You know, there's a deep coaching side of it, a very personal level to it. There's, you know, there's growth over years side to it. There's everything you want from a program. It makes you more flexible if you are doing it correctly and not being a doofus about it. Like, it makes you live a longer life. Like, there's all kinds of things that it can give you. You just need to figure out what they want from a fitness program and talk to them about that side of CrossFit. Trick them into getting in there, because short of just saying, hey, come and try it, it's going to be really hard to really describe what the program is. So figure out what they want first, and then talk to them about the side of CrossFit that fits that question or that desire.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I like that. Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up, actually. I don't want to take up too much more of your time.
No worries, man. I'm just going into a tax appointment after this, so.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. I want to hold you up. Where can people find you guys?
You can find us at warmupandworkout.com. So that's just warmup and then andworkout.com. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Pat Barber CF. Find me on Facebook, Patrick Barber or Pat Barber. I have an athlete page too. You can find my wife. She's Tamarin V. I think she's Tamarin. Oh, maybe she's Tamarin Barber now. She's Tamarin Barber on Instagram. That's what she's at. Anyway, but yeah, if you need to reach out for anything, feel free to shoot me an email, pat@warmupandworkout.com. I'm more than happy to help any way I can with anyone.
Awesome, Pat. Thanks very much for your time today, bro. Much appreciated. For all you guys listening out there, make sure you suss out crossfitbydesign.com.au. Hit us up on Facebook. We're on Instagrizzle, all that stuff. And yeah, we'll see you in the next interview. Cheers, guys.